Heard of home milling or baking with freshly milled grains and wondering exactly what is this all about? Well, stay tuned because in this video, I'm going to be giving you a very simple step-by-step explanation of what baking with freshly milled grains actually is all about. Hey y'all, welcome back to Grains and Grit. My name is Felicia, and on this channel I teach all about real whole grains from a biblical perspective. So this video, as I mentioned, is all about exactly just a simple basic explanation of what baking with freshly milled grains, freshly milled flour actually is. What is the difference between that and what I buy in the store? Or maybe that wonderful sourdough loaf you buy at the farmer's market, is that the same? And I'm just basically gonna go ahead and give you a hint, a little spoiler, that most likely, if you're not very familiar with freshly milled flour, it means that you probably have never had real bread in your life. And we're about to break that down for you. So let's get started. All right, so the very big, huge question that we need to tackle first is exactly what does it mean when something is when it's freshly milled flour, freshly milled whole grains, and what is the difference between that and what you are typically buying in the store? Well, first of all, this right here is a picture of your typical flour that you probably have seen in the store. And with this flour, this is basically what we have associated with all of our lives as wheat flour. So when a recipe calls for flour, this is probably what you're grabbing from the store. And from this flour is usually made pretty much all the breads that you buy in the store, that you eat at restaurants. It is made from this type of flour. But this is actually not real flour. It is not real wheat. In fact, it's actually dead. And it doesn't matter what type of bread you make from it, even your beloved sourdough loaves that you might get at the farmer's market, if it's made from this flour, hate to break it to you, it's not real bread. This type of flour has been stripped of pretty much all of its nutrients, and basically what is left is nothing but protein and starch. All the goodness of the grains have been removed for the sake of making very super light, delicate type breads, and also for it to last longer on the shelf. And believe it or not, while this type of flour is what we typically know as flour that we use for baking, this is not the flour that our ancestors thought of as flour for thousands of years. So let me actually show you what was always considered real flour for thousands of years. Okay, so this is actually what real wheat is. These are just called wheat berries. Also, just don't worry about it. They're not berries like you think of it. It's just basically the seeds of wheat. When wheat is grown, this is what comes up and is known as wheat berries. And whenever you're using fresh milled grains, or even the flour you buy from the store, this is what it starts with. Yes, wheat berries in my old pickle jar here. And now let's talk about what actually happens in the process when you actually take the wheat berries here to make it into the flour that you buy from the store and pretty much all the breads that you know as bread. So this is a handy dandy little display from Nutrimill. This right here are wheat berries. This is everything in it. Think of it, all it is just a seed. And then from here, they actually breaks down into where you have the bran, the middlings, the wheat germ oil, and all of this stuff here is removed in order to make what you know as flour that you buy from the store, which is this. So we start with wheat berries, remove all of this and get the white flour. But here's the deal. This all right here is where all the nutrients live. So wheat especially is king. It contains 40 out of 44 essential nutrients that we need on a daily basis. And pretty much all of them are found in these 4 items right here that are taken out to make your typical flour that you buy from the store. Yes, even your beloved King Arthur flour, most of this is removed because some of these nutrients are also oxidized. So even though they might say that they maintain some bran or some of the germ, most likely you're still not getting all of it due to oxidation. So to just recap, again, for thousands of years, your ancestors were actually taking this wheat berry and milling it and having everything that's in this wheat berry. There was no sifting or anything like that, and that's what they would make bread from. There's a reason that bread is known as the staff of life, because grains, real whole grains, are so nutritious for us, and we needed them to really survive and thrive. And it's really only been in the past 120 so years that we have now associated this white stuff as flour and as bread, when our ancestors, they weren't removing all of this good stuff here. So how do you actually make your own flour from home? How do you actually make real whole grain flour that's actually good, nutritious, delicious for you and your family? The simple thing is, in order to actually have freshly milled wheat, freshly milled flour, freshly milled whole grains, you actually have to mill the grains yourself at home. Now, good news, we have come a long way from the mule walking around a millstone. You do not need to go out and buy yourself a mule. Our technology has greatly sped up this process, and what you need is a grain mill to actually help you mill these wheat berries. We throw them in here, and out comes flour that you use for your bread baking. And with that flour, it has all of the 40 out of 44 essential nutrients that you need to survive and to thrive. It has the fiber, the B vitamins, the vitamin E, all of the good nutritious stuff that God put in that wheat berry to actually help you have bread without having all the issues that you may have with our modern type bread made from white flour. And even better is, this will be the best bread that you've ever had. So step one of actually baking with freshly milled grains is you need to get some wheat berries, and then you need a way to grind them into flour. This is just one of my grain mills. This is the Nutrimill Harvest. She is a stone grind mill. I actually have a total of 5 grain mills. You do not need 5. One will be just fine. Other ones I have are impact mills. So just know that the categories of grain mills breaks down into your impact mills and your stone grind mills. And I did a video all about helping you choose what grain mill is good for you. You can check that out here, and I'll also link it in the description box below. But bottom line is, you just need a way to get the wheat berries into flour. It used to be, that people had to do this by hand. And then eventually they got millstones where a mule would walk around it, or they was powered by water or by wind. Thankfully, we now have them where they fit on our counter and they're electric. Praise the Lord. The other thing that you might consider is a really good mixer. With freshly milled wheat, it's a different ball game. It is a bit heavier of a dough. So the mixers are really great and easy to handle, but your typical KitchenAid isn't really going to cut it, because it will burn the motor out sooner. So there are ones like the Bosch Universal Mixer Plus, the Nutrimill Artiste, and the Edgar Scrum that are really favored among those of us who bake with freshly milled whole grains, because they will last you an extremely long time, and they are all power workhorses that do a really great job kneading that bread. And again, I have videos on those. I will link those down for you below. And then last but not least, you just need some good recipes. You need to be able to have recipes that are made with 100% freshly milled whole grains, because freshly milled whole grains is a different ball game than your white flour that you get from the store. The dough can act a bit different. And on top of that, you have a lot of different wheat berries to choose from, as opposed to just one kind of flour, really, that you have in the store. And so things can change with that. And good news, I've been milling my grains for over a decade, and you get to learn from my mistakes, because I have plenty of recipes for you that are tried and true, that feed my family on a daily basis. And you can check all those out at grainsandgrit.com/recipes. And there's a ton there, and all of mine are 100% freshly milled flour. You will find no store-bought flour here on this channel or on my website. Which leads me to another big tip for those of you who are beginning, is basically you need to just master one recipe starting off with. And I recommend that be a typical sandwich loaf. And good news is, it's not as complicated as some people may make it, or that maybe you've seen recipes and you're like, there's no way I can do this, it's so complicated. I have a simple yeast spread loaf recipe with 100% freshly milled grains that is easy, it's simple, it's faster, and of course, it's delicious. And that video is up here, and I will also link it down for you below. And I recommend that you start with these simple recipes first, master it, and then start moving on. So now that you have your grain mill and you have your recipe in tow, you now need some wheat berries. And you may start noticing that when you start looking at all the wheat berries out there on the market, there's a lot. That's the beauty of freshly milled grains. We have a lot of options, but do not get distracted. Keep it simple if you're starting new. I just recommend you start off with a hard red or hard white wheat for your yeast breads because they're gonna do best and they work very easily, and a soft white wheat for all of your baked goods. And I will link down below places that I recommend. Just know one of my favorite places to buy hard red wheat from is actually 4 Generations Organic Farms, which actually is a sponsor of today's video. So one thing I love about 4 Generations Organic Farms is not only are they organic wheat berries, but their Butler's Gold hard red wheat, by far I can say, as of today, is my favorite hard red. It creates very consistent loaves, delicious. It's an easier wheat, I think, to work with, especially as newbies. It's not tricky like some of your ancient grains. And with 4 Generations Organic Farms, it is coming from organic farmers right here in the USA that take care of their soil. They are very big in making sure that they are taking care of the soil for future generations. So hopefully they'll be around for the 5th generation. And you can be sure to check them out. Just go to grainsandgrit.com/4generations. Use coupon code GRAINSANDGRIT for 10% off your first order. And do know they have hard white wheat as well, which I love their hard white wheat. So I also recommend that. And this is a great place to get it for beginners. Okay, so like I said, once you have your wheat berries, then you just start. Now to store those wheat berries, you just need a good container with a good lid to keep out your bugs, your pests, and your moisture. Moisture is not a friend to your grains. They will cause them to sprout, therefore not able to store for long periods of time. But otherwise, that's basically it. And just know, I know it can be intimidating to get a grain mill and just start milling your grains, but just know it's just flour. That's all it is. It's just flour. It will act a little bit differently. It may look a little different than store-bought flour. All depends on the wheat that you were using, but that's because you have all the good stuff in it, like that bran and that germ, which is what you want. But otherwise, this bread is life. This is the bread, freshly milled at home and baked whole with real whole grains, is what our ancestors have had for thousands of years, and it was called the staff of life for a reason. And only in the past 100 years or so was that staff of life broken, but you can get it back and it's easier than you think. So hopefully this video was helpful. And as I mentioned earlier with my simple yeast bread loaf recipe, that's this video right here that you can certainly start with. And be sure to check out the description box below for all those links I mentioned. And let me know if you've got any questions in the comments. And as always, I hope you'll have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next week. Bye.